These are the jobs you may not see every day, but just know we're working hard to make Hillsborough County a better place to live, work, and play. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more great county-related videos, only on HTV.
Your wait time is 3 hours and 30 minutes.
It's okay, Dad. It's just not your day.
I know.
No, I mean it's not your watering day.
Oh, right.
Look!
Sometimes it's just not your day. Hillsborough County limits lawn and landscape watering to specific days in order to preserve year-round conservation. To find out your watering days, just visit hcflgov.net/water restrictions and enter your address.
Good afternoon and welcome to the October 19th Hillsborough County EPC meeting. At this time, I will call the meeting to order and ask Commissioner Cameron Cepeda for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we acknowledge you in all of our ways, and today we pray a special blessing over Hillsborough County, all of your people in Hillsborough County, very special blessing. And we just ask you to bless them in their spirit, their souls, and their bodies, and that is well with everyone in Hillsborough County. And we ask you to bless this meeting in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Cepeda. We do have one member participating virtually, so we will ask the clerk to take a roll call vote.
Wostel?
We couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, Wostel.
Here.
Cameron Cepeda.
Here.
Cohen.
Here.
Hagan.
Here.
Kemp.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Owen.
Here.
All right.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lorton, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, Commissioner, we do not.
All right. Do any commissioners have any items for removal of consent? Okay. We have no recognitions and proclamations, so at this time, prior to starting public comment, a few notes. We have one public hearing today regarding revisions to the EPC's noise pollution rule. If you have comments related to the noise rule, please hold your comments until that portion of the meeting. All other public comments not related to the rule can be given in this first comment section. With that in mind, the EPC will now allow members of the public 3 minutes each to provide comments on any matters relevant to the EPC, but before the rulemaking item. And first in line, we have a Mr. Pederica.
I believe he's here for the noise rule, Commissioner.
So Mr. Pederica, I will call you up for item 8A during the public hearing, okay? All right, then. Are there any other members of the audience that weren't able to sign up prior to the meeting starting for public comment? No. All right, with that in mind, we will close public comment and move to approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Cohen, second by Commissioner Myers. Please cast your vote.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you very much. And I will now ask Mr. Murati to introduce item 8A.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Yeah, this is a public hearing regarding rulemaking revisions to Chapter 1-10, Rules of the EPC, which is our noise pollution rule, specifically the exemption section. The public hearing is proposing a rule amendment and is required to be noticed in a newspaper, which we have actually noticed in 2 newspapers pursuant to the EPC Act. And so at this point, Ms. Lorton will introduce our presenter.
Thank you, Rick. 8A is we are going to conduct a public hearing to consider proposed amendments to the EPC's noise pollution rule, Chapter 1-10, Rules of EPC. If you remember, the item was continued. The whole rule was passed in its entirety along with the Midtown map. But I did want to, for members of the public, I did want to let everyone know that Hillsborough County, Temple Terrace, Plant City, City of Tampa, all have their own noise rules. So our rule is just our rule, and they also have their rules. So with that, I'm going to let Jeff Sims go into a very quick presentation. Jeff?
Okay. All right, great. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jeff Sims, Environmental Protection Commission staff. As mentioned previously, this is a properly noticed public hearing related to the proposed rule changes for the noise rule. So I'm here today to provide an overview of the proposed amendments to our noise pollution rule, also known as Chapter 1-10, for your consideration. As a reminder, at the September meeting, we held a public hearing that resulted in the approval of various amendments to our EPC noise rule. which included updating definitions, clarifying various exemptions, and the addition of the Midtown map as an exemption area. During that meeting, the Commission also requested for additional outreach related to the proposed downtown area exemption map, so we're returning today with related changes. There we go. Okay, there we go. So as a little background on our rule and a reminder, it should be emphasized that EPC's noise rule distinctly measures against decibel standards. That is different than the majority of local ordinances, which are based on the perception of law enforcement and whether the noise is considered unreasonably loud and raucous. As such, while violations above the standards can be more defensible for us, they are also more difficult to acquire due to the interferences and the difficulty catching a source, which may be intermittent at excessive levels over a 10-minute average. EPC responds based on the receipt of complaints, so measurements are taken from the receiving property of the citizen, not from the source itself. This is intended to better document the true impact of the citizen. Due to difficulties in acquiring clean data, the EPC, and that EPC is not law enforcement, there are multiple exemptions from the noise standards, including residential and mobile sources. Lastly, as Janet mentioned, our noise rule operates concurrently with other local areas, and it should be emphasized that Hillsborough County and all three municipalities, the City of Tampa, Plant City, and Temple Terrace, maintain their own individual noise ordinances and full jurisdiction to enforce them regardless of the requirements of our rule. Regarding the proposed change today, the Commission directed EPC staff to further engage with the City of Tampa and the Tampa Heights Civic Association residents to consider additional comments. Since last month's meeting, EPC staff engaged with the public as directed through stakeholder meetings with the City of Tampa and a presentation at the Tampa Heights Civic Association monthly meeting. The proposed rule was posted on EPC's website on October 4th and emailed to over 700 interested parties and businesses, including all registered HOA and civic associations as documented through Hillsborough County Neighborhood Relations. Public notice of this hearing was also published in 2 local newspapers earlier this month as required by Section 5, Parent 2 of EPC's Act, and no written comments related to the proposed change were received. So we are proposing a map to replace existing descriptions and references to outside rule in regard to areas where noise from music and entertainment are exempt. This map includes limited downtown areas of the City of Tampa where noise regulation by EPC's rule is currently exempt, along with proposed additional areas within the city. This area is recommended for exemption due to the concentrated urban nature of the areas, as the data measured by EPC sound monitoring devices may be distorted by multiple noise-generating venues operating simultaneously, and by interferences created by numerous walls and buildings that can cause reflection and diffraction issues affecting the noise data results. The City of Tampa has historically had defined congested areas within their noise ordinance where they enforce their own decibel levels at the source due to the potential for noise from these entertainment activities. Our current rule specifies 3 districts, the Ybor City Historic District, Channel District, and the Central Business Districts that have historically been exempt in our rule by reference for 15 years. As mentioned previously, these areas and areas nearby pose problems for acquisition of valid data due to the concentration of businesses and buildings, along with obstacles of dealing with elevated sources and residents. As such, we are proposing a defined geographic area that encompasses these districts, along with other areas nearby where noise from music and entertainment would be exempt from our rule. At our previous meeting last month, we proposed the displayed map to encompass those areas, which included the northwest border up to Palm Avenue. However, following review of comments discussed with the Civic Association and the City of Tampa, we are proposing a revised map. Shown here is the revised map as proposed with a reduced area on the northwest quadrant, now bordered by I-275, that no longer includes areas within the Tampa Heights Civic Association district. As with the districts currently referenced in our rule, any source within the new proposed area would be exempt from our noise rule. However, it should be restated that the City of Tampa maintains full jurisdiction with regard to enforcement of its noise ordinance within this area and throughout the City of Tampa city limits. In cooperative discussions with the City of Tampa, the city has indicated support for the proposed map and EPC agreed to have continued meetings with them to support future noise discussions, including consideration for training opportunities. Based on the information provided, and as noted on the screen, our recommendation is to adopt the proposed amendments as detailed in the agenda package and authorize staff to make any typographical corrections as needed. That concludes my presentation today, and at this point, I believe the hearing progresses to any public comments, and I'll be happy to address any questions you have going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sims, and you are correct. We will now open up the floor to any members of the audience that have signed up to speak for item 8A's public hearing. And first, again, I invite Mr. Pederica to the mic.
Commissioner Whistle, just one correction to the record. After the deadline that we had asked for written comments, which was October 10th, we did get one written comment afterwards. So just wanted to make that distinction that there was one written comment about this rule, as opposed to zero, which there were none before our deadline. We had asked citizens to send us a deadline, so just wanted to correct the record.
Understood.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Pederica. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioners. I have copies I'd like to distribute of a packet. Thank you. 7 copies.
Yeah, the clerk.
Thank you. Ricky Pederica, 308 East 7th Avenue in Tampa Heights. I support the previous map that showed the area south of Palm. Palm Avenue is an important and the 20-year-old neighborhood plan that identifies Palm as the northern limit of the mixed-use office corridor section shown with the red arrow. And it's also the entire Franklin Street corridor terminating at that point. Palm Avenue is also important in the City of Tampa's comprehensive plan. It's the northern extent of the Central Business District periphery. The CBD periphery is an area around downtown that promotes mixed-use development by providing density bonus incentives for developers. So there's both the neighborhood plan and the comprehensive plan promote increased development in this area south of Palm. That was provided on the previous map. Further, the neighborhood incentivized development in this area by reducing parking requirements for businesses on Franklin Street with the Tampa Heights overlay that was passed in the City of Tampa just a month ago. It's also the northern boundary, Palm Avenue, of the Tampa Downtown Partnership Special Services District, which is a business improvement district that funds placemaking and transportation initiatives through landscaping, urban design, public art, and mobility improvement. All 3 of these plans or programs support one of the goals of the overlay district that was just passed a month ago to spur redevelopment along the southern commercial corridors such as Franklin Street. Just last month, the representatives put forth a rebuttal to the outdated suburban zoning codes of the neighborhood that we are currently under to spur redevelopment and have commercial destinations close to homes. These plans support the concept that the south of Palm district, it's not a thing, but I'm trying to characterize it, has a mixed-use character, not a single-family residential character that was testified at the last meeting. This is the existing land use map taken from the county's website. The single-family properties are shown in yellow, of which there are, other than these attached townhomes, 5 single-family properties located in the historic district. 2 of them are vacant. There's 3 single-family properties in this area. And there's single-family properties in the other areas of the city that are exempt from the other parts of this provision. So I appreciate that the EPC associated this district with downtown. And I ask you to not reinforce I-275 as a dividing line between downtown and Tampa Heights. And thank you.
Thank you very much for that thoughtful and well-prepared statement. Are there any other members of the audience? I believe this is the only one signed up. I didn't see anybody else walk in. At this point, I believe that we're going to open it up to the commissioners for the debate. Okay. I will acknowledge Commissioner Kemp first in the queue.
Thank you. And I totally agree with the comments that were just made. I was totally confused by the discussion here last month, and I wanted to learn more, and I did so. And one of the things I did was, and it was actually just an incidental phone call to Adam Hardin, who this was so much about armature works in that area, which I'm very familiar with and go to, and I know the neighborhood just north of it and everything. And I said, well, we just spent all this time talking about armature works and whatever else. And he was just really taken aback. He had no idea that any of this discussion had been going on previously. And I think it's one of the reasons we don't see anyone here today is one thing he did in the interim is he called his own meeting in Tampa Heights to talk with people. I've asked a lot of questions and tried to figure out what, what this was all about. And I see this one here, EPC has not received any complaints for noise in the last 5 years in the Tampa Heights area. Is that correct?
Yeah, we were
Sorry.
requested that, well, specifically the area between Palm and I-275.
Right.
Yes.
Right, which I was just totally taken aback by the comments because I know that the Pearl Apartments, they're like a wall that's way more substantial than the wall at the amphitheater, which I saw for so long. And I'm down there and I'm thinking, what kind of problems do we have here? Then I found out too, any of the special events, those are all permitted by the city of Tampa, and the city of Tampa can do whatever they want in terms of those. Those are exempt from, that is what the city of Tampa controls. It just seems to me the original proposal to extend this exemption up to Palm makes total sense, and I've talked to many people about it and tried to understand what the issues and complaints were. And I really think there was just, I said, I asked Ms. Dougherty, I was like, when somebody said about their neighbor making noise, and I said, do they call the EPC and do you respond to that? And no, they call the police. That's, what you do. And that is who is jurisdictionally responsible for responding to a single family residence. So when the next residence over is making a lot of party noise or whatever. So I really think that the original proposal makes a lot of sense and would work well. And as was pointed out at the beginning of this meeting, the city of Tampa still has jurisdiction over all of it to enforce whatever it is that they have on the books for this. And it doesn't, so much of this too is resolved usually between, if there is a big problem that more than like one person complains to, or something is resolved between the business and the, they will make amends. And this has been, I think, a very cooperative area in terms of the community. So again, my motion is just to return to the originally proposed map at Palm Avenue, which the one speaker here today also suggested that would be appropriate.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Kemp and a second by Commissioner Owen. Commissioner Owen, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think that's very well said, Commissioner Kemp. If you all remember last meeting, I moved for approval and was the only one that didn't want to continue it because I saw that the work that our EPC, the outreach that they did, I thought it was enough, but now we've gone even over and beyond that. I'm trying to find the right word to use. I find it remarkable that the city of Tampa, their hands were in this so much. We would have duplicative regulations on noise ordinances and different ones if we were to not include, say, armature works. Correct, Janet? Is that safe to say? With the city of Tampa and us, we both have different regulations. So that's confusing in and of itself. And I just think that I don't see why we would do that or take that action. And I guess I'm also concerned when the city of Tampa, and I really don't know this, Commissioner Cohen, I know you served on the city council, when they prepare their noise ordinance and stuff, do they consult with us? Are we at the table at those meetings? How does that work?
Commissioner, I've only been in this position for 8 years. I've never been at the table. I know staff, when they finalize their noise rules to come out, they normally show us the finished product. So we're not there through the creation of their noise rule. And as far as duplication, obviously for members of the public, for residential In Hillsborough County, it's our sheriff. For City of Tampa, it's the police department. You know, I believe when the noise rule was created for the Environmental Protection Commission, it had to do with industrial sources. And obviously, if there are industrial sources in these areas, we are still going to regulate those industrial sources. The problem comes into getting accurate readings when you have high structures and multiple entertainment districts, which is what is occurring as City of Tampa continues to rezone these areas. And we cannot get accurate readings that are enforceable. So I don't believe we received any phone calls because they call the City of Tampa Police Department. My understanding was when staff met with them, I think annually they receive something like 7,000 phone calls. Now, I don't know if those are residential, industrial, entertainment sources. And then obviously you still have the issues of the special permits that they create. And I think in the Tampa Heights area, when I went to the meeting and listened to those people, and you know, I feel for them. The special permits, these festivals that they have, they're exempt from our rule, they're exempt from the City of Tampa rule, but they're created by permit within the City of Tampa. So those, I think, are the predominant phone calls that are being generated within that area. I'm not really sure it's entertainment districts, but this big private area that these festivals are occurring in, they will be apartments and they will be entertainment if you look at the map in the future. So did that answer your question?
It does, very well, yeah, and then some. So, so Commissioner Kemp, I was going to make a very similar motion. I appreciate all the hard work and everything that you all put into this, but I'm supporting Commissioner Kemp's motion. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cohen, you're recognized.
Well, I'm also going to support her motion. And I do want to say that while I think this could have been disposed with at our last meeting, I don't think it was a mistake to continue it because, quite frankly, I think there were a lot of misunderstandings about what everybody's role is in this process. And just to give you a very, very brief comment about the City of Tampa's, when I was at the City Council, we had a whole standard design based on measuring by decibel. And that ultimately fell apart and was replaced by this new standard, which I have not been following very closely, but I understand has been pretty unworkable. And I think that the city has really struggled with how to deal with noise. And partly it's struggled because the city's grown so much and there's so many people visiting and participating in different activities. There were two things that I learned in between the last meeting and this one. One was that I received a letter from Mr. Harden, and if that letter is not in the record already, it needs to be placed in the record. I'm assuming that it is. But he made a very compelling case in that letter that the map, as we were going to go forward, really treated the Heights and Armature Works area differently than the other 8 entertainment areas in the city. And that really does concern me, because anytime you're treating something alike differently, you're asking for trouble, I think. The second thing is what Commissioner Kemp and then Ms. Lorton were referring to regarding the special events permits. I really think that a lot of the trepidation about Armature, a lot of the concern from the neighborhood about their inclusion in this really has more to do with the special event permitting process and the noise created by that than it does this. And I think it was good that we had a little bit of extra time to figure that out. So I really appreciate your motion, your support of it. I'm going to be in support also. And, you know, even though we took a little extra time, I feel like, look, I wish I could say that I believe that what we're doing here is going to make some huge difference in the noise problem in the city. And my guess is that not much is going to change as a result of what we're doing. But I think that at the very least, we're not adding to the problem by passing the wrong map. And so, again, I'll be supportive.
Commissioner Kemp?
And just to respond for a minute, too, I felt the same. I was just so confused at the last meeting that I just didn't, I felt like I needed more information, and I needed to understand the inner section of these and why it didn't really make sense to me, but I wanted to really know it better and feel confident in it, and so that's why I did a little bit of a deeper dive to try to really see if I felt we were doing the right thing by this, and I totally feel comfortable with this now, whereas last meeting, as I deferred to you and your prior.
I was confused as well.
Right,
so.
right, and I think it's I feel it's the right thing to do.
I'll make a couple comments. Seeing no one else in the queue, just to the speaker, during the last hearing, I specifically pointed out that these neighborhoods asked for exactly this type of growth and development to promote the density that you spoke of. I mean, and it's also a need to promote public transportation to be more viable in the city of Tampa. So I was surprised to hear them here arguing against it. But on your very detailed sheet, I do see exactly my points, which is in 2002, Tampa Heights Citizen Advisory Committee adopted this. Tampa Heights community adopted by November the 12th, 2002 again. And I guess it's all the points I was making last time, is that it just seems counterintuitive for us to be fighting against things that have been long fought for. And I do appreciate you coming through, and it sounds like you're gonna win because I'm gonna be supporting it too. So I will ask for a vote from the clerk.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you very much. And we will move on to item 9A of the irregular agenda. That will close the public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner. 9A is the 2023 Pollution Recovery Fund grant application and funding requests. Chris Pratt will be delivering the presentation, and then we have Director Sam L. Robbie here to answer, I think, some questions, as well as other staff. Brett Urson, I'm sorry, Brett. I was trying to figure it out.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Chris Pratt, EPC staff. I am here today to present the PRF EPC staff recommendations for the 2020-23 Pollution Recovery Fund grant projects. We will be asking for a vote of approval for the recommended projects at the end of the presentation. EPC's Pollution Recovery Fund provides grant money for projects to restore polluted areas, mitigate the effects of pollution, and to otherwise enhance pollution control activities within Hillsborough County. PRF has provided nearly $9 million for environmental projects in Hillsborough County since 1987. PRF is funded solely by penalties obtained through enforcement action against persons and entities that have violated EPC rules. Any citizen, organization, or governmental entity can apply for PRF grant funding, provided that all project activities and environmental benefits take place within the geographic boundaries of Hillsborough County. And PRF is governed by EPC Rule Chapter 1-9. This slide shows the priorities of Chapter 1-9, and they include remediation and/or enforcement action, restoration of a polluted area, mitigation of the effects of pollution, pollution control activities to prevent or minimize future pollution, and educational programs promoting environmental stewardship and pollution prevention. This slide shows the oversight of the grant program by EPC staff for transparency and accountability. PRF grants are reimbursable grants. A grantee uses their own funds to make a purchase and then submits an invoice to staff along with receipts or other proof of payment to be reimbursed from the PRF. In addition, a report describing the use of those funds must be submitted with each invoice. Every 6 months, a status report is required to be turned into EPC staff, and staff can perform site visits to document the progress of the project as required. At project completion, a final report is due, and a site visit is performed to ensure work has been satisfactorily completed as per the terms of the agreement. The graphic on this slide shows the PRF grant application process. So starting with the upper right segment in red, we evaluate the fund at the beginning of the year to decide if we are going to accept project applications. We basically evaluate the fund for the amount of money that's in it. In 2023, we accepted, now moving around the pie, In 2023, we accepted applications between February 13th and April 25th. All projects were reviewed by the EPC Legal Department from May to July. Then during September and October, EPC technical staff evaluated applications to determine which proposals should be recommended for funding. In September, all projects were reviewed by Janet and EPC senior staff, which made the final decision on which projects to bring to the commission to recommend for funding. And that brings us here to today to ask for your approval to fund the recommended projects. So for 2023, the maximum amount of funds allowed to be requested was $50,000 for each individual project. We received 7 project applications, and we are recommending all 7 of the projects to be funded. The total amount requested by all applicants is $279,749.22. I would now like to individually present to you each of the projects that we're requesting your approval for funding. The first one is agricultural pesticide collection. The agricultural pesticide collection program offers farmers an opportunity to properly dispose of pesticides that cannot or should not be used. The applicant is Hillsborough County Extension Service, and they are requesting $48,000. MacDill Air Force Base mangrove restoration. This project is the last phase of a mangrove restoration project at MacDill Air Force Base designed to fill mosquito ditches and return natural tidal flooding to the restoration area. The applicant is Ecosphere Restoration Institute, and they are requesting $50,000. Impact of indigenous E. coli on microbial quality in Hillsborough County. This project is actually a study by the University of South Florida to develop methods to differentiate between E. coli from pollution events and naturally occurring E. coli populations in streams. This study builds on a 2020 study that was funded by the PRF that used microbial source tracking to pinpoint the sources of bacterial contamination in Hillsborough County water bodies. The applicant is the University of South Florida, and they're requesting $50,000. Reed Park Stormwater Restoration Project. This project will install submerged aquatic vegetation in the Hillsborough River at Reed Park in the city of Tampa. The plantings will be covered by cages to protect them and allow them to grow. The applicant is Sea and Shoreline LLC, and they're requesting $49,621. Invasive species removal along Hillsborough River, Hillsborough Way, and Old Tampa Bay. This project will remove invasive species at 7 locations in Hillsborough County for a total of 10 acres of restored land. The locations include parks and trails along the Hillsborough River, Hillsborough Bay, and Old Tampa Bay. The applicant is the city of Tampa, and they're requesting $50,000. Lake Magdalene Grass Carp Barrier. This project consists of installing a barrier at the outfall of Lake Magdalene to prevent the existing population of grass carp from migrating out of the lake. Grass carp are used to control a nuisance vegetation in lakes. The applicant is Lake Magdalene Special Taxing District, and they are requesting $20,258.72. And then the last project is River Hills Nature Trail. This project will restore a portion of the 4.2-mile nature trail in the River Hills subdivision in Valrico and the Alafai River watershed. The project will remove invasive species and plant native vegetation on the 250-acre property. The applicant is the River Hills Master Association, and they are requesting $11,869.50. So our recommendation today is we are requesting today the commission approve funding for the 7 projects listed here, totaling $279,749.22 in pollution recovery funds. We are also requesting that you authorize the EPC chair on a continuing basis to execute the approved PRF agreements with the grantees in substantially the same format as the form PRF agreement drafted by the legal department. We are also requesting that you authorize the EPC chair, after staff consultation, to execute future amendments that involve non-material changes or reasonable deadline extensions as may be necessary. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I have to always be careful what I'm about to say because I'm not a scientist, I'm not an expert, and I'm a new commissioner here. I think I can say that for one more month until a full year. I've gotten some emails, and I know other commissioners have as well, because a lot of them are copied to all, regarding the A23-06, which is the Reed Park Stormwater Restoration Project. And a lot of folks are concerned. They're saying we're going to spend $49,000 and change, and then these are going to die in 2 days. Again, I don't know if that's the case or not, but I really wanted to I don't know if it's appropriate to get a lot of input on that now, or if it was more appropriate to move for an approval and maybe ask for some type of presentation on that particular this particular item at the next meeting. So, Janet, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, Commissioner, I'm happy to. We can deal with that right now. We don't need to give another presentation. This is not the first time that a project like this has been funded, okay? I have Sam O'Robbie here to answer any questions. We could go through this, line by line. They're talking about cages. They're reusing cages. If you're familiar with mitigation, so the grasses, you put cages on them so they can grow up, and the roots get established so that the manatees don't come in and eat them. Okay, and so they are, manatees do come and forage on them. It's getting seagrasses, which is, this particular type of a grass. I'm, not very familiar with all the different grasses. Chris, Brett, and Sam could deal with that more properly. But the reality is mitigation is sometimes very, very successful and robust, and sometimes it may fail and you have to replant. But we've done this before, and it has been successful. So I will let Sam talk about it.
Okay.
Hi, Commissioner. Yes, we funded projects like this before, and we encourage experimental projects. Some of the projects are cleanup, so it's a straight cleanup. Some of it is educational, whether it's brochures going to homeowner association, paying for pamphlets and what have you. We funded those. Some of the projects are abatement, so we have a wide variety of projects that come to EPC. We have this good niche in the market. Success rate is the variable that you're asking for, how successful this is going to be. So sometimes we can tell success will be 100%. Sometimes we can say maybe this is 50, 70%. But the nature of some of the projects, which is experimental, lends itself to a variation of success rate. So we encourage these experiments to come in, and then they have to go through permitting. So this project in particular got to go through EPC wetlands permitting, DEP, maybe the port, for traffic and what have you. They decide what type of planting you have to do and the success rate. They decide what species is good, what species is not. We don't decide it ourselves. So technical staff went in, looked at this project in particular, and said the preponderance of the evidence is, yes, there's some experimental issues in here and some that has been done in the past and proved to be successful. We vote to get it approved. We would like to maintain this niche in the market where we can provide funding for some experimental work. Is it going to be all the time successful 100%? It may not be. But if we don't do these experiments, if we don't encourage people to come in with some innovation, we will move that out of the market. And not a whole lot of people have that in. We have the funding. I think it's a worthwhile project for us to go through.
What do you think the percentage, you were given some percentages, do you think? Could you?
That's the difficulty always. We funded studies, for example, for USF. We did not know upfront that this study is going to be successful. They came back to us and said, we need more funding because we have found these following areas that have gaps. So we continued. One of the projects is the third time we see scientific value in some of these projects that come to us. And frankly, that's one of the purposes of this fund, which is a settlement type deal we get from pollution sources. It serves that purpose in the market, and there is not a whole lot of people that cover that gap. So portion of the projects that come in are experimental in nature. The other portions are not. You can say, oh, this is 100% success rate. We can tell before even you start. Go for it. So if we vote to kind of eliminate things like that, I feel the market will not have that type of funding available for some sort of experiment. People will not be encouraged to go and do some kind of study like this. Is it going to be 100% successful? I cannot guarantee it, but we will learn something from it. And there will be side incidental benefits to seagrass planting along rivers, along the bay. If the manatees came and eat them, the seeds will migrate somewhere else, and you would have a secondary seeding season. That's why we have the cages. Cages prevent anything that comes in, like manatees and others, to pluck them out until they have the roots in. So we felt voting for this is the appropriate thing for us to do, and that's why we recommended it.
Okay, thanks for that.
Could I just add to that? This has been done in the Chassahowitzka River. This has been done in the Apollo Beach area. We would not be funding it if we didn't think there would be success criteria. But you're going to get a presentation in January that shows naturally occurring seagrasses are dying by thousands of acres. Okay? So, and when I was in the private sector, we would do mitigation planting, and West Meadows got planted 3 times because of drought. So those are things with Mother Nature. You can have monumental flooding, you can have a drought, but EPC felt after evaluating this that the chance of likely success was great. And so that's why we're moving forward with it.
No, I'm on the estuary board and the Hillsborough River interlocal, and learning about that, it's fascinating and horrible at the same time to see what's happening to our seagrass, for sure. Where are the cages going to be placed? Do you know?
Along the shoreline.
Along the shoreline. Okay.
Correct.
Good.
In water.
Okay. Well, that's good enough for me. I'll sit back. Thanks.
Commissioner Kim?
Thank you. That was really, I'm glad you asked the question. It's kind of like the noise ordinance. And I was very pleased with the explanation. And it's really good to learn that we are willing to do experiment or push the envelope some, because we need to, especially with the way I think our world is changing, and it is shocking, our disappearing seagrasses after all these years of being so hopeful. And it's also just a small portion of these grants, and I'm really actually more than pleased to hear that explanation of it than almost the original. So I'm glad that the question was asked, and I was really pleased with the answer, and I'll move approval for that.
Second.
Commissioners, just one point we wanted to raise. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda has a potential for a conflict with the River Hills Trail. So we were hoping, assuming you were willing to approve all or any of them, if you would pull out the 6 first ones that were on the list. I don't know if you can pull them back up.
I have the slide
The 6 first projects, vote them separately, and then, or vote them as one, and then the River Hills separately, so she has the ability to abstain.
Yeah, this slide is prepared. If it could be switched over to the screen, you can see the first 6 projects. Unfortunately, the captioning is covering up the last one, but those are the first 6 that you can vote on.
Commissioner Kemp, I think you'd have to remove, Commissioner Kemp, for the...
To vote on
Right.
A1 through A6.
So I'll remove that and just without the River Hills.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
or
so-
with the river, we want to put the River Hills in.
As a separate vote.
A separate vote, okay, sorry.
I have a
Go ahead.
motion to approve item 9A1 through 9A6. We're voting on 9A7 separately. All right, and did I have a second? Second by Commissioner Cohen. Motion is by Commissioner Kemp. Are there any other comments? Before we vote, I do want to make sure some of the comments are asking about water follow-up processes. Are we sure that they are non-native or native plants that we're planting? Do we have answers for that? The comments that were made seem to be coming from somebody in that's pretty ecologically friendly. They seem to be in the space professionally. I want to make sure I don't ignore their concerns.
The plantings that they propose to put in there is Vallisneria, which is a native plant in our region. We've done this project before in different areas in the Little Manatee River. And so, again, with the terms of the permit that is going to be required, it'll dictate. They won't just let them put invasive non-native plants out there. So.
Okay, and none of the issues that they brought about navigable waters and Coast Guard.
Again, they'll have to be permits required for that. These cages will be on the shoreline. So, but if there is a possible conflict with that, that'll be again addressed by the permit.
So as long as they're not beaching their boat, they'll be pretty good to go.
And here, because like I explained, these are reimbursable grants. So if they're not allowed, if they can't get the permit to do this project, then the money does not leave the PRF fund.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Essentially.
Please cast your votes.
Hagan. Hagan.
Hagan is not on the line.
Okay.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. And do I have a motion for item A7? So moved. Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Kemp, second by Commissioner Owen. This is for item 9A-7.
Motion carried 5-0. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda abstain.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We will move on to item 9B.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Chris. Great presentation. Good afternoon, Commissioners. It is my pleasure to come before you once again to report on our agency's progress, programs, and initiatives for fiscal year 2023. If you could pull up the slides, please. Thank you. This report recognizes EPC's efforts to protect our local resources and promote the importance of a healthy and sustainable environment for future generations. At EPC, our mission, vision, and values provide the framework to ensure we remain focused on our goals. These were derived as part of the rigorous Sterling management process and are utilized throughout our daily interactions with the community. We evaluate them annually as part of our strategic planning process to ensure we are maintaining our focus on efficiency and continuous improvement for the agency. Next slide, please. The agency's core functions come directly from our Enabling Act. They help us to focus our energy on successfully sustaining our mission to protect our natural resources and maintain the quality of life for the citizens of Hillsborough County. Additionally, we have delegated authority across several environmental programs to further monitor and protect our local community. Next. Wetlands are critical to maintaining a healthy environment. Our Wetlands Division utilizes technological advancements to improve efficiency in wetland protection, takes advantage of continuous learning opportunities, and helps safeguard wetland resources by working with vested stakeholder groups in Hillsborough County. Additionally, wetland staff participate in multiple cleanup events throughout the year and promote wetlands awareness to the public during Americans Wetlands Month in May. Next slide, please. The division remains very active, particularly with the increased development and population growth in the county. Within the last 12 months, the Wetlands Division received over 2,000 submittals for reviews and investigated over 400 complaints. Next slide. This graph demonstrates our continued commitment to no net loss of wetland functions and shows the last 5 years comparing the completed acres of impact, which are in orange, to the mitigation completed, which is in green. As a reminder, there is a requirement when wetlands are approved for impacts that mitigation be provided to offset the loss, and EPC manages this locally. Next slide. This figure illustrates the required mitigation conservation easements, as well as the additional voluntary easements EPC has received from property owners for non-mitigation purposes. Since 2014, the combined total received is nearly 1,700 acres. Establishing conservation easements and protecting our natural resources help to lower flood insurance premiums for our residents, with an estimated $5.9 million in savings according to FEMA's community rating system. Our air division, next slide, please. Our air division is...
Can you just repeat that number again?
Yeah,
how much?
Be happy to. That's good news. When establishing conservation easements and protecting our natural resources helps to lower flood insurance premiums for our residents with an estimated $5.9 million, almost $6 million, in savings according to FEMA's community rating system. Next slide, please. Our air division is responsible for guarding and enhancing the quality of air we breathe. While we monitor the local air quality levels, the air division also inspects air pollution sources, investigates complaints, issues open burn authorizations, operates Hillsborough County's asbestos inspection program, and regulates limitations on certain noises. Next slide. Our air monitoring network provides around-the-clock monitoring of primary air pollutants and is one of the most robust systems in the nation, with an extensive volume of data acquired over several decades. The data collected helps to determine our compliance with the federal air quality standards and is used to set standards for future rulemaking. We are currently in compliance with all federal air quality standards. Next slide. EPA's Air Quality Index ranks air quality levels from good to hazardous. And overall, our local air quality is good, as we experience only a few days where the air quality is unhealthy for sensitive groups. Since pollution control systems for sulfur dioxide were upgraded at some local industrial sources several years ago, there has been a general decline in the number of unhealthy air days. In recent years, ozone and more recently, fine particulate are the pollutants that typically drive up the AQI numbers. Next slide. The air permitting and compliance sections regulate nearly 250 industrial sources of air pollution to ensure these facilities follow local, state, and federal rules. Staff reviewed nearly 600 industrial emission reports last year. Our permitting staff continue to prioritize construction permits, as these often correlate to growth and can lead to new job opportunities. Next slide. The EPC's Waste Division is responsible for ensuring the proper management and control of solid and hazardous waste through its state contracted and state delegated activities, as well as its independent permitting, compliance, and waste generator education programs. Next slide. Under contract with the FDEP, the EPC has managed the petroleum cleanup program in Hillsborough County since 1989. The EPC's petroleum cleanup program works with and manages the activities of the state and local contractors who oversee the cleanup of the properties where petroleum discharges have occurred. Next slide. Like the petroleum cleanup program, the EPC has managed the storage tank compliance program under contract with the FDEP since 1989. Our routine tanks compliance activities ensure proper storage tank operations and maintenance, thereby protecting groundwater resources. Next slide. In many instances, the brownfields and old land redevelopment programs work together to promote, problem solve, and incentivize impacted and contaminated site redevelopment. For the past 19 years, EPC has managed state-delegated brownfield redevelopment program in Hillsborough County. And over this past year, brownfield site redevelopment has resulted in over a $61 million increase in property values. The EPC has promoted and guided the redevelopment of historical landfills since 1978. Next slide, please. By state mandate, all counties in the state of Florida are required to establish a small quantity generator notification and verification program. And EPC has maintained its program since 1991. The SQG program is supported by user fees collected from the businesses we regulate, and to date, over 16,000 businesses are registered as potential generators of hazardous waste. User fees are required by state law and collected by the tax collector. Our program is based on education and compliance assistance to business owners and operators. Since 2016, compliance rates have significantly increased. Next slide, please. Our water division protects surface and groundwater quality through the implementation of monitoring, permitting, compliance, and enforcement programs. These pictures show EPC's water division staff engaged with the public regarding services they provide and equipment they operate. Next slide, please. Commissioners, each year the Bay report card is updated to show the water quality trends for the 4 Bay segments. Across the top are the 4 segments. The water quality indicated in orange is poor and green is good. The Bay has dramatically improved since EPC began monitoring water quality 5 decades ago. In the last few years, Tampa Bay has had some serious challenges to contend with, including Piney Point and Red Tide. The yellow designation of the lower Tampa Bay for 2021 reflects these challenges. In 2022, all Bay segments were green. Next slide. The Pollution Recovery Fund, housed in the Water Division, provides grant money for projects to mitigate the effects of pollution. It is funded solely from administrative penalties obtained through enforcement. Since 1987, the PRF has provided nearly $9 million in grant funds for over 180 environmental projects. These funds are often leveraged with other funding sources to help pay for much larger projects. This slide shows all of the active PRF projects, with 3 of the 7 projects being countywide. Next slide, please. The Water Compliance section conducted over 400 routine inspections for domestic and wastewater facilities, including small and advanced sewage treatment plants and industrial facilities. Water compliance staff also responded to over 300 citizen complaints, including sewage spills, failing pump stations, construction site runoff, turbidity issues, and more. Next slide. The Administrative Division and Legal Department support our 4 operational divisions. Our admin and legal teams maintain budgets, ensure compliance with regulations, and provide state-of-the-art technological enhancements. They apply a combination of job expertise, quality work, which benefits staff, the public, and the environment. Next slide. Here are the results of the most recent employee survey. The results demonstrate the highest overall employee satisfaction since these surveys began. Our next employee survey is scheduled for later this year. Next slide, please. In 2022, we hired an outside consultant to survey our customers in order to gauge their satisfaction with our operational divisions, our website, and EPC overall. 96% of responses rated EPC as either good or excellent. Overall satisfaction has steadily increased over the last 10 years. Next slide, please. We recognize the value and benefit diversity provides to our agency, and this remains a primary focal point for hiring practices. We seek to capitalize on building a diverse workforce, which increases our opportunities for high performance, as well as increased staff and community engagement. As you can see on the chart, more than half of our staff consist of females, and nearly 1/3 of staff are minorities. Under my tenure, we have added 6 minority or female division directors and increased minority diversity at the management levels. Next slide, please. Once again, we demonstrated fiscal responsibility by not only staying within our budget, but also being on track to return money to the general fund. We are responsible with the fiscal resources that are provided by the taxpayers and entrusted to us by this board. And we, in turn, leverage this money by bringing in approximately $5.6 million in outside funding sources. Next slide. As you can see from the summary of the agency's complaint activity, of the over 1,400 complaints we received last fiscal year, we have responded promptly to our constituents within 3 days, 99% of the time, and have closed out nearly all complaints with our internal goal of 90 days. Additionally, all of our 4 operational divisions have been subject to some form of audit by an outside organization. This year, EPC had 48 audits evaluating our performance, which have been used to improve our programs. Next slide. In fiscal year 2023, we met most of our self-imposed metrics established for our core function, but staff requirements continue to challenge our performance toward meeting these goals. It should be noted that we established these internal goals during the Sterling management process, wherein the agency set a high bar and elevated efficiency standards. And the goals are evaluated annually during our strategic planning process. Next slide. EPC staff continues to promote sustainability with our partner agencies, stakeholders, and the community. From partnering with the Clean Cities Coalition to working with Tampa Bay Regional Resiliency Coalition. Additionally, we helped nearly over 200 homeowners and small businesses go solar with Hillsborough 2023 Solar Co-op, which was launched during our annual Clean Air Fair. Next slide. The environmental and business feedback groups continue to provide us with useful advice, and we continue to listen to the ideas and concerns of both the citizenry and the regulated community. We met with both feedback groups this year. Next slide. EPC staff participated in numerous environmental workshops and forums at the national, state, and local level. EPC served as the host venue for various community and partnering events throughout the year, which included rule update workshops, as well as regional meetings and training, and a statewide conference. EPC collaborated with EPA and provided requested technical outreach support concerning a local medical equipment sterilization facility. Our engagement activities also included the participation of Director Sterling Woodard as an honored speaker at a national Pulitzer event. Next slide. Community engagement remains a strategic priority for the EPC to promote our agency and our mission. EPC connects with the local community and students through a variety of outreach events, including EPC's annual Clean Air Fair and related photography contest, town hall meetings, parades, and school-related activities. I am committed to engaging with the public on a personal level, and I wish to thank EPC staff for their volunteer outreach efforts and philanthropic support for those less fortunate throughout the year. Next slide. We look forward to 2024 with high expectations of ourselves, and we will strategically plan to address our known challenges. We will remain adaptable, looking always to efficiently maximize resources and maintain flexibility. However, we have recognized a significant institutional loss of knowledge recently, including over 100 years of experience from retirements this year alone. In addition, we've experienced increased difficulty in hiring and retaining emerging leaders due to competitive salary inequities from both the public and private sectors. These future leaders were part of our succession planning strategy, so sufficient resources are necessary to reestablish EPC as a desired long-term career destination. Since 2007, the county's population has increased by 30% to approximately 1.5 million people, yet we have continued to provide services with 21% less staff. We also recognize the importance of keeping pace with constantly evolving changes in information technology. Next slide. None of EPC's success is possible without the dedication of our staff, working together for the good of our community and our environment. I want to personally thank staff for all their efforts in making 2023 a successful year and personally supporting myself and the agency's mission. And next slide, please. And finally, commissioners, we appreciate all you do to champion the environment, community, and our agency. It's your backing, along with the support of County Administrator Bonnie Weiss and her staff, that is vital to EPC's ability to operate as a first-rate local environmental program. We cannot do what we do without you, and we thank you. And this concludes my annual report, and I'll be happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you. I just want to make sure, is a quorum just a simple majority under the ordinance?
As long as we have 4 commissioners in the chambers, we have a quorum, yes.
Just confirming. All right. Thank you very much for that report, Director Lorton.
Thank you.
I don't see anybody queued up, so we will move on to item 9C, your performance evaluation.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. Elaine DeLue, EPC staff. So EPC's Executive Director's performance is evaluated by the Commission annually. The evaluation forms for Ms. Lorton were provided and discussed at the September EPC meeting. We received assessments from all 7 commissioners, and I'd like to thank you and your staff for returning the evaluation forms. The assessment scores from the commissioners have been compiled and provided in the agenda backup. This is the rating period from October 2022 through September 2023. The ratings were composed of 3 main categories, which are performance behaviors ranging from leadership to management of organization, accomplishments of goals ranging from environmental protection excellence to continuous improvement, and performance measure of core functions ranging from timely permit processing to timely enforcement. Ranking criteria were listed from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score and 1 being the lowest. The average score of all 19 components was a 4.9 out of 5. For today, the Commission has an opportunity to provide feedback and complete the evaluation process. If no action is taken, as provided in her employment agreement, Ms. Lorton would receive the same wage increase as what the BOCC budgeted for all employees, which this year is 4%. Alternatively, the Commission can finalize this evaluation process today and vote to give the BOCC budgeted percentage to Ms. Lorton or take alternative action if preferred. At this point, I turn it back to the Commission.
All right, Commissioner Owen?
Yes, and I'll, of course, move for approval of that. And I meant to get in the queue from your last presentation, too. I just want to tell, first, I want to thank you all for your patience with me. And Janet, you are just, you're a rock star for this county. And I know one of the reasons you're doing so great is because the people you're surrounded by, just amazing folks. I just can't tell you how much that I've already learned from you all. You know, when in doubt, I still skim it out. It's an inside joke, so. But I just want to tell you what a blessing you are, Janet, to this county and this community, and as well as all the employees. So thank you.
Commissioner Myers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just like to say to you, Janet, and your staff, first I want to go back to the report. Excellent report, bringing us up to date as you always do at every meeting, giving us bit by bits, and to put it all together, it's like, wow, we've done so much in a year's time. But also just looking at how we as commissioners rated you, how much we appreciate just your leadership and what you've done to lead the agency. Thank you so much. I mean, it's just awesome to work with you and your staff. And your staff. It's okay to clap staff because it's true. We appreciate working with you all because every time if I call to any other commissioners, you're always there to answer our questions and to make sure we are informed in the same. So, Jen, I commend you for just outstanding job and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, thank you very much.
I think that was a second, probably.
Second, yes, second.
All right, so I have a motion by Commissioner Owen, a second by Commissioner Myers, and I will also congratulate you on a job well done. Director Lorton, take a vote.
Hagan.
Hagan is not on the call.
Motion carried 4-0.
Well, they left you on the edge there. Right.
Small in numbers, but mighty, mighty. 4 votes are mighty.
And do we have another report?
I just have a couple of quick slides and then
Okay.
we're done. And
Okay.
again, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, not only professionally but personally. Everyone here has been supportive. I consider you all, years from now when I'm no longer in this role and you're no longer in your roles, I'm sure we'll see each other and cross each other's paths. But you guys are all truly leaders too. And I do want to thank staff. They are the best staff to work for. And it is hard saying goodbye to staff. We've had a lot of retirements and we have some more in the queue. But our agency is getting re-energized with a lot of new people, and it's exciting. So thank you again. I just have a couple of quick slides. We'll just run through these. This was the executive report that got deferred from August. First slides. Commissioners, obviously we're going to show this in August, but this is since we last met. EPC staff and I appreciated the opportunity to support the Juneteenth flag raising ceremony held at the Commission Center just prior to our last EPC Commission meeting. It's an honor to participate in this important celebration and recognize this holiday. And I just have to tell you, it was awesome. Next slide. The 2023 Florida Brownfields Conference was held this summer in Orlando. Allison Amram, Nicole Garcia with our Waste Division and EPC attorney Andy Zadro gave a joint presentation discussing EPC's Chapter 1-7 Waste Management Rule and our state delegated Brownfields Site Development Program. They also provided an overview of how the division's old landfill and brownfields programs collaboratively operate in Hillsborough County. Next slide. EPC was invited to participate in Port Tampa Bay's Environmental Harbor Tour held in July, and it was an incredible event. I provided assembled guests and the media with a history of EPC and an explanation of the important work we do to protect our natural resources. The tour was a great venue for our staff and other Port Tampa Bay partners with the public to answer questions and encourage environmental stewardship. Next slide, please. Last month, EPC hosted a 2-day Florida Fats, Oil, and Grease Conference in our Garrity Conference Center. Nearly 100 registered members attended, including professional vendors in the industry. The annual conference includes municipal, utility, and regulatory representatives from all around the state and provides a valuable networking opportunity for counties and cities alike. I forgot to tell you to advance the slide, so you can advance the slide. That's that, and there we go. Now to the next one. EPC staff attended the Tampa Bay Association of Environmental Professional Annual Women in STEM workshop. The event features opportunities to learn from local women leaders who host table discussions and various career development topics. Kim Tapley of EPC's Wetland led one of the tabletops, which was how to find comfort in the chaos. Effective strategies to shift your thinking about work, life, and everything in between. Next slide, please. Commissioner Mike Owen held a town hall meeting at Sun City Center. I've never seen so many people in one venue at one time. It was incredible. Citizens had an opportunity to ask various departments questions they have about Hillsborough County and the services provided. And I think, like I said, I think it was very well attended. Next slide. EPC staff, Mary Guthrie and Kelly Honey, worked with EPC at the EPC booth at the Yes Fair, and obviously they saw you there, Commissioner Myers. The Yes mission is to positively engage living with a disability through events and education that enrich and empower people living, working, and playing in inclusive communities. Next slide. In September, we celebrated the retirements of Laura and Sterling Woodard, who you recognized at the last EPC meeting. I wanted to thank Commissioner Myers and Commissioner Kemp who attended, and especially Commissioner Myers. She brought the choir out from the Juneteenth. Isaac Ruffin and the choir, they sang the most beautiful music. She led the festivities, and I don't think you could have had a better celebration for retirement ever.
Commissioner Myers sang. Did you sing?
She was singing and clapping. We were all singing and clapping. We were all singing and clapping. Yes. Yes. It was awesome. Okay. Next slide. EPC staff enjoyed a picnic with coworkers on this last Saturday, October 14th, at Hillsborough County, Medard Park in Plant City. If you've never been, you should go. It's a jewel. I see you shaking your head, Commissioner Owens. It is the most awesome park. Not only did staff bring their spouses and children, but we also had a few furry animals show up. They have to be tethered, of course, but we had such a great time. Next slide. Last night, staff attended the 41st Annual Planning and Design Awards on October 18th. It was hosted by the Planning Commission. This awards program is a well-respected tradition honoring projects contributing to a better quality of life in our community. And Commissioner Owens, thank you so much for going over and meeting staff and chatting with them last night. Really appreciate it. Next slide. Our next EPC meeting is November 16th, but at each of your little seats, you have an invitation. Hopefully, if we don't have any hearings or any rulemaking, which I'm not anticipating, we will be having our famous Thanksgiving luncheon, and we hope you can all attend. Ask aides and commissioners who've been before. It's a lot of fun. I think Commissioner Owens, you came for the first one last year as well, and I think Commissioner Myers.
I think we should make a motion for the county to shut down during this. It's really good food.
It's a lot of fun. It is so much fun. So with that, that concludes my presentation. Thank you again so much, commissioners.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Lorton. Do we have any future items for discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes. Are we going to consider going back to the 9 o'clock meeting?
Commissioner, I'm so glad you brought that up. So we have a schedule from Luann Finley that now shows us for most of the days at Thursday at 9 o'clock, third Thursday. So for 50 plus years, we were the third Thursday and at 9, and at one point it was at 10. If you guys would like to push it back, I mean, our meetings typically run between an hour and 2 hours, but normally about an hour and 15, depending on questions. Sometimes it can be 2 hours when we combine meetings together. But if you want to do it at 9:30 or 10, I don't think there's anything conflicting with that. But right now we have the third Thursday coming forward, and I think Ms. Finley has put together a calendar of all your meetings. So I don't know if you've decided to co-locate your land use meetings together or given input on that meeting calendar. We have 1 or 2 meetings that may be at 2 because of a conflict, but I think they're typically, except for September, a month when we don't have a meeting, like a December or a July.
Yeah, so I brought this up, and at that point, I didn't really get much feedback. Everyone kind of said, I do whatever, and they felt like most of the problem was with the 6 p.m. meetings. I know tonight we only have 1 item, which is, so have you now developed a preference, Commissioner Myers, or?
I'm good with 9 or 10 in the mornings.
Okay, I'll get with.
Definitely not the 2.
I'll get with Luann, and I'll just send out a memo to everybody, and
10 is always nice, just because of rush hour traffic and stuff.
I wish we could find people that are in charge of fixing the roads, so it wasn't so bad. So I will get you some feedback on the time.
I like the mornings also.
You like the mornings also?
9 or 10 is good, yeah.
Let me see what they did with land use, if there's an update on it. I haven't seen, so I'll get with Ms. Finley, and then I will send out a memo to all the board members and you.
Okay. Yeah, it will get approved. The calendar, they consult us, but it gets approved at a BOCC meeting within the next 30 days or so. So
Okay.
it comes back to you.
Well, I'll get you an answer sooner than later. Did we have any discussion of future agenda items beyond the time preferences? Nope, then we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, commissioners.